Hello, everybody. When I just hit live, I thought to myself, why don't you sing Jesse Spano in Saved by the Bell saying, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so scared, because she was addicted to caffeine pills. Because I am so excited to talk about this book today, Casey at the Bat. Tremendously excited about the book. I really am, for a variety of reasons, and I'll get into that just here in a minute as we kick this off. Now, the natural light. All right, where's it better? Okay, I need one of those people. Hey, Joe's, my dog's down there. Maybe she can hold one of those things in there, one of the light blockers. No, not there, not there, not there, not there. Well, we're gonna kick off another episode of AMXkids today, and this is a special one. This is called Casey at the Bat, a ballad of the Republic sung in the year 1888. And let's see if we can manipulate this. And I had never heard of this poem, actually, until John Wessner, my friend, classmate, teammate, as we're going to talk about here in a little bit, told me about the book not too long ago, so I bought it. And I'm going to do a little something different today. I'm actually going to read the book / poem. It was a poem, first published in 1888 in the San Francisco Examiner, on the show. I don't normally read the books. I give you highlights of the books. But this one, it was published in a newspaper a long time ago. It's part of, I think, lore, American baseball lore. And I thought it would be neat to expose you to this if you've never been exposed to it, to expose you for the first time. And if you have been exposed to it, bring it back to light, because it's absolutely going to make you smile. Now, when I read the book to you, I'm going to show you the pictures. I'm going to hold it up, etc. Because I remember when I ordered it, John said, John Wessner, who teaches 4th grade, he said to me, make sure you get this edition. And this edition is this edition. The poem was initially written by Ernest Thayer in 1888, but this book is illustrated by Chrisopher Bing. It's a really neat book, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it, and you're actually going to see it. But I highly recommend, whether it's for your classroom, whether it's for your kids, whether it's for, maybe I'm going to talk about baseball, back in the day playing baseball, and maybe for your Little League teammate that you're still friends with, or maybe for your husband or your wife if they love baseball. I think this is a really neat gift idea as well. This specific one, because there's a lot of memorabilia and nostalgia in the book. So let's rock and roll. And a reminder also to subscribe to the Spaniard Show. The audio portion of this is going to be uploaded to my podcast. Let's rock and roll. Let us rock and roll. Okay, I got some things in front of me. I'm jumbling around some things. So I'm going to be a little bit out of sorts. All right, one. Joe's, please don't bark. Please don't bark. I swear she knows when I'm recording. She doesn't bark all day except when I'm recording. Then she starts barking. Please don't bark, Joe. Please. 1, 2, 3, and... Hello, my friends, young and old, and welcome to another episode of the Spaniard Show. This is AMXkids number 46. Now, I'm going to do a little something different today. I was first introduced to this book, Casey at the Bat, a Battle of the Republic sung in the year 1888 by John Wessner. John Wessner is, coincidentally enough, when I dive into the content of today's show, he's been a lifelong friend, teammate, classmate, colleague when we were teaching, and he recommends a bunch of kids' books to me, and they're all awesome. And again, these are kids' books, most of the ones that I'm covering the last couple weeks, picture books. This book, Casey at the Bat, I'm actually going to read the whole book because the whole book was once a poem, right? And I thought it would be really neat. This was a poem first published in the San Francisco Examiner back in on June 3rd, 1888. June 3rd happens to be my wife's birthday. Not so much in 1888, but June 3rd, 1888, this poem, Casey at the Bat, was published in the San Francisco Examiner by Ernest L. Thayer. Now, when Mr. Wessner introduced me to this book and recommended that I cover it on the show, he said, make sure you get this edition. In this edition, if you're watching on Facebook Live, facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard, you'll be able to see the pictures as I read the book. It's illustrated by Chrisopher Bing. And I'm going to get into the details of that in a little bit, but I wanted to bring this, and again, AMXkids is created for youth. It's created for kids to listen to dive into and add to children's books, the lessons in children's books, picture books and chapter books, because they're full of them. And I think it's really important to bring out those lessons, those life lessons to young kids. But also, what I found while reading these kids' books, whether they're picture books or chapter books, is, holy cow, I resonate with what's going on here. In this book, in me brought out a lot. It's full of nostalgia. And I thought it would be a good learning point, especially for the young listeners, to dive into that idea of nostalgia. So baseball is America's pastime. And the baseball itself, but also the book, bring on this feeling of nostalgia. Now, if you're young, maybe you heard of the word nostalgia. I'm guessing maybe like junior high school, you probably hear about it for the first time. If you're an old head like me, of course you've heard of nostalgia. And you know it's a feeling, or you say, I'm feeling nostalgic. But up until a couple months ago, I didn't like fully understand what I knew. It was a thing I said, I knew it was a thing I felt, but I didn't really have words to describe it. It's just, you know, when you see old things, it's just you feel nostalgia. Nostalgia is a sentimental longing or wistful affection for the past, typically for a period or place with happy personal associations. So this book, Casey at the Bat, this poem, Casey at the Bat, baseball brings out in me nostalgia. Like I'm guessing for a good bit of listeners out there, it brings out nostalgia as well. And I want to share some of my nostalgia. And as you listen to this, I want you to reflect in your mind or with a friend, or if you're in a classroom with each other talking about. Of course, if you're young, you don't quite feel this nostalgia yet because you're not old yet. You don't have much of a past to look back on. But for me, baseball brings out Pee Wee League, playing for the Indians. Back in that time, like I said, Casey at the Bat was recommended to me by John Wessner. John was my teammate back then. The Indians, he was my teammate. So this goes back, I don't know, we were 8 years old. This goes back 30 years. But I remember my coaches and my teammates, you know, with the Indians, Cesar Tagliotti and Martin Tagliotti, who were both tremendous people and both have passed away. They were tremendous. Martin was my teammate. Cesar was one of our coaches. I believe John's dad was a coach as well. But it brings back these memories, this appreciation of simple times. It brings back good people. It brings back good memories. It brings back Saturday afternoons, hopping in the back of the pickup truck after you won your game, going to the meadows. Could you imagine? Kids, could you imagine? And parents, can you reflect on being able, it was so normal to hop in the back of a pickup truck and drive across town to the Meadows or whatever ice cream shop was in your town and celebrate. You can't even ride a bike without a helmet these days. You can't put a bunch of kids in the back of a pickup truck. That's blasphemy. But it brings back those good memories, the teammates and the coaches. You know, in Pee Wee League, it was the Indians. And in Little League, I played for Rotary. I have a picture that I'm going to post, one of those little pins that you order of playing for Rotary. Of all the different coaches I had, the great people, Mr. Healy and Mr. Roop, and like I said, Mr. Tagliotti, really great memories. But it also brings out in me, and I'm sure it's specific to you, especially if you're young, you're going to be able to reflect on this kind of stuff in the future. It also brings out feelings of not belonging. You know, sports, I wouldn't change a thing. And I think the lessons that I'm going to talk about now helped shape me and are extremely valuable. And they're not things that I will shield my kids from. I'll expose my kids to these things because they help me develop strength. They help me figure out the world. They help me figure out myself. And it may have taken 30 years for me to figure out myself, but eventually I got there. But it brought back nostalgia, but it also brought back feelings of not belonging. Friends, some friends who you thought were your friends, that when you get together in these different settings and different dynamics and groups of people are together, you realize, maybe that person who I thought was my friend isn't my friend. Why aren't they talking to me? Why are they talking to those other people? It brings out, are you good enough? Are you good enough? Nobody likes to feel like they're not good enough. I can remember distinctly getting picked for tournament teams. Were you on the A team or were you on the B team? The A team was for the best kids, and the B team was for the good kids, but not the great kids. But here's the deal. I wouldn't change that. I wouldn't get rid of the A team and the B team. I wouldn't get rid of the valedictorian and the salutatorian. I wouldn't, because that's reality. That's nature. That's how things work. It's not always easy. It's not always fun. And again, I'm talking about memories from when I was 8 to 15 years old, and I'm 38. So these are life. These had an impact on me. I remember them clearly, vividly. And that's, again, why the power of these kids' books, because they bring this out in you as an adult. I remember hearing the word politics for the first time. Oh, that's politics. Oh, he's the coach's son. That's politics. That's why he's playing. I remember hearing those sentences and those phrases and not having any idea what that meant. What is politics? I don't even understand what that means, right? I thought that was the president. I don't even know what that means. But all of these things, both the nostalgia, the wistful longing for, the appreciation of the past, as well as those feelings of youth that are just confusing and overwhelming and daunting, and will probably, if you're young, those feelings will probably last a lifetime. I clearly remember these things, and you probably will too, and it's okay. You don't have to forget them. Understand that that's a part of forming you as you will be, right? It's part of your evolution as a human being, and it's part of developing that strength. Now, to add on a light note, as we dive into Casey at the bat, I also want to throw this out there, and this is, I kind of jokingly am saying this, but I'm kind of serious. I did hit 2 home runs in one game once. I was 12, I think. It was during tournament time. I think I actually said that when I was on Pros versus Joes during the introduction. I think I did say I hit 2 home runs in one game. But that was an awesome thing, an awesome memory from baseball as well that came up as I was making this lesson plan. So Casey at the bat. On the inside cover, it describes this book, and it describes the illustrations, which again is why Mr. Wessner recommended I get this copy. It says, Chrisopher Bing's magnificent presentation of this immortal ballad. There are artifacts, period baseball cards, stickers, tickets, not stickers, period baseball cards, tickets, advertisements, and a host of other memorabilia into the narrative to present a rich and multifaceted panorama of a bygone era. Maybe it's not bygone, maybe it's bygone, but there is certainly nostalgia for America's pastime. Just the other night, I watched The Sandlot. With my kids and my wife, because my kids love the movie. Talk about nostalgia. Talk about those young boys figuring whether it's squints in the pool, whether it's the amusement park scene where they're eating chaw. No matter what it is an appreciation for this book, Casey at the Bat, for that book, The Sandlot, and for America's pastime. Now, I'm going to read to you, and again, this poem was first published in 1888 in the San Francisco Examiner, written by Ernest Thayer. It is fiction. It is about a town called Mudville. It is about Casey. It is a hero's journey, or not. I don't know. I didn't know. Let's begin. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but 1 inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first, and Barrows did the same, a sickly silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A struggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to that hope which springs eternal in that human breast. They thought if only Casey could get but a whack at that, we'd put up even money now with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a Lulu, and the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed but little chance of Casey's getting to the bat. But Flynn let drive a single to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and the men saw what had occurred, There was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a hugging third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell. It knocked upon the mountain and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing and a smile on Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance gleamed in Casey's eye. A sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batsman the ball unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Casey. Strike one, the umpire said. From the benches, black with people, there went up in a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. Kill him! Kill this umpire! Shouted someone on the stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had Casey not raised a hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey's visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult. He bade the game on. He signaled to the pitcher, and once more the spheroid flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, strike two. Fraud, cried the maddened thousands, and echoed answered fraud. But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold. They saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip. His teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has struck out. What a fun read. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville Nine that day. The score stood 4-2 with but one inning more to play. What a cool book. Thank you for all tuning in. This was it was fun for me. It was fun for this nostalgia to go back to baseball, all the feelings that it evoked. It was the first time that I did something like this, reading the poem on the air. It's a little bit harder than I would have anticipated with a bunch of different elements working together, but I sincerely appreciate you tuning in. I hope you had fun with this. Casey at the bat. Thank you, Chrisopher Bing, for the tremendous art, the memorabilia, the artifacts, the tickets. It's a really fun book. I'll have it up on my website, charliespaniard.com/reading list. And again, I encourage you to do some research. This show is about learning. The Spaniard Show is about learning, is about this ideal of becoming the world's toughest lifelong learner. This morning, I knew nothing about Casey at the bat. I did my research. I got online. I got on Wikipedia. There are thousands, there are millions of things that you can learn about. It just takes the impetus or the beginning to make it happen. There was a post yesterday that my wife, she showed me, she sent me via text message. So the newest, the record-setting Jeopardy winner There was a quote that I put up on my social media. If you follow at Charlie Spaniard on Facebook.com/Charlie Spaniard, you'll see it. But he says one of his strategies for learning so much is reading kids' books. Reading kids' books, just like we're doing here. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you appreciate the show. Every ounce of support that you give the show is sincerely and greatly appreciated, whether it's a review on iTunes, whether it's subscribing on iTunes so you can have every episode sent straight to your phone. And you can visit charliespaniard.com where you'll see links to my speaking programs, links to my social media, as well as my reading list. And here's a challenge I want to put out there. Whether it's Casey at the Bat, whether it's the book with no pictures, which I have on my desk underneath that, whether it is The Happiness Hypothesis, whatever book it is that you read, take a pic and tag me at Charlie Spaniard. See you, folks. There we go. I enjoyed that. It was harder than I thought. First of all, my seating was off. I didn't really consider that beforehand. The tone, the flow, the rhythm, I'm going to say the poemness of it. It's incorrectly said, but that was good. That was hard. It was fun. I loved it. I hope you enjoyed it too. Definitely something that I'll build upon. This is the book, Casey at the Bat. Highly recommend you get it. Thanks for tuning in. This episode will be uploaded to my podcast feed today. Comes out at 4 p.m. Spaniard Show on iTunes. I'm just going to say books are the shiz. Books are the shiz. Read a book, take a pic, tag me. See you, folks.